started, but I'm going to wait until it starts. There we go. Okay. And so like I was saying, I did attach a slideshow. There are some resources in that, but we're going to spend most of the time actually looking at the tools. I'm going to do a lot of screen sharing. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. Even if I'm in another window in the presentation, I should hear the chat go off. Or, you know, just unmute yourself and ask me to go over something again. Don't hesitate to do that. And I guess we'll go ahead and get started if y'all are ready. So, and this is going to show up as long as you are in Chrome. You all should have, and it might not if you're on a personal computer at home, or if you're not logged in with your school account, but you should have an extension. And I'm sharing my screen now. So as long as you are in Chrome, you should have an extension up at the top here. And this extension is called Read&Write for Google Chrome. And this is going to allow you all access to the toolbar. So I'm going to come over here into the slideshow that I attached for everybody. So let me go ahead and I'll close it real quick and show you guys how to open it. So I'm in a slideshow. I'm in it. So in Google Docs, in Google Chrome, in Google Slides, in Excel, basically any Google product, you should be able to access the Read&Write extension. So up here, I can click on that little purple puzzle piece. The students all have this automatically installed on their Chromebooks. And then my Read&Write toolbar will show up. So that is how you access it. If you are on a personal device and you're not seeing that, you should be able to type in, just open a tab, type in Read and Write Extension. It's going to come up. And it is this top extension here, the Read&Write for Google Chrome. And if you click on that, for me, it's going to say that it's installed. But if you're on a personal computer and it's not installed, you can go ahead and install that. Just make sure that you are signed in with your school account so that you have the full paid version of what we have from Texthelp. So back to the slideshow and the toolbar. So really, my slideshow is pretty basic. This is another, you can type in this link or copy this link to get your own copy of the slideshow. It is case sensitive. Or if you click on the attached file in the, so it's in your calendar, and you can click on this attached file, and you can just go to File, make a copy, and it'll allow you to make a copy to save in your own drive. And so my second slide is just kind of, you know, what is Read&Write and why should I be using it? So Read&Write is an accessibility tool that is really applicable to students with special needs, but all students as well. I think that it can be important for even teachers to use. And in every training that I've given on this, I always tell the story how I've used it to write papers before, because it's got a pretty good speech to text feature. And sometimes when you're working on college papers, you get tired of typing it out and you just want to speak your paper. And so, you know, I've done that before too. So you guys can create vocabulary lists for your students. You can annotate documents. You can use the dictation. And students are able to use this tool to define words without ever leaving their program. There's text-to-speech. There's some really awesome tools for students with dyslexia. There's really a lot of great things built into Read&Write. And I will go over all the tools here in just a little bit. If you go ahead and make yourself a copy of this, you will be able to click on these links. And they just give you a little bit more information about Read&Write. So you can click on that PDF. It's got more information about the vocabulary list. There's a highlighting, it goes over the highlighter tools. There's 2 documents there, sorry. And then I have a quick guide, and this is really awesome. So I do highly recommend checking out that quick guide. And I think I heard the chat go off, so I'm going to check over here. Hey, Fernie, thank you for joining us. All right, so I'm going to keep going. So this quick reference guide, this is great not just for you, but for the kids too. If they forget what their tools do, this is a real easy way to go in and say, oh, okay, that's what that does. And it gives a very good explanation of each of the tools. So I'm going to go back over to the slideshow. And so I've also included some graphics that will give you an explanation, a visual of the tools. So very similar to the quick reference guide, but just maybe in a more digestible format. So this is also good to share with your students. Okay, so what I'm going to focus on now is actually using the tool. So I am going to, let me go ahead and start off by explaining the tools. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go into Google Docs. And for this, I'm just going to open a blank document. Feel free to follow along and try out the tools as I'm going. And let me know any questions that come up as we're kind of exploring this. So you can see it automatically came up right now, and that's because I had it open in another window. So Read and Write thought, oh, well, she's using us in this window, she might want us here. So it just automatically opened. But if I don't want it there, I can use this to kind of hide it, or I can just close it out. So I have those 2 options. I can hide it, and then I can just click my little tab down, it pops back up. Or if I just really don't want it there, it's in my way, I can close it out. And to get it back, I just need to click on that little purple puzzle piece again. And so I have various tools up here. I have my spell check, I have word prediction, I have a dictionary, I have a picture dictionary. And so let me kind of go into these tools as we're going. The dictionary, so I don't have a word, so it's not going to come up with anything. So let's type in happy. Let's see if that works. And I can highlight that word and click on my dictionary. It's going to give me the word, adjectives, and then I can even press play, and hopefully you guys are going to hear this. And it's going to read it to me. I can read this. Okay, and so then I can also come over here and I can say, well, let's try the picture dictionary. And it's not going to only show me the word, but it's going to show me a picture for the word, something descriptive. I have to give a little disclaimer here. It is not going to give a picture for every single word, especially like the more complex words as you start dealing with probably older students. But it does give you a general picture for most simple words. So I can also say, okay, so I've got happy here. I could say, I am happy. And then I can come to the end of my sentence, and maybe as a learner, I'm kind of struggling here. I'm trying to come up with a sentence, but I can't think of the word that I want to say next. So as a learner, I can come over here and I can turn on my word prediction, and it's going to suggest words. And I don't know if you guys can hear that, but as I hover over the word, it's reading those words to me. So I can use that word prediction to help me come up with what I'm going to say next. I can go ahead and turn that off. And so our next tool, it's just the play tool. This works differently in different applications. So if I press it right now, So it read it to me and it was repeating it. If you're in a website, it is not necessarily going to start reading automatically. Sometimes, depending on what application you're in, you need to highlight it before you press play. So obviously you've got pause and stop. So do keep in mind that once you press play, you are going to need to stop it to gain access to your other tools again. You also, so this one is a screenshot reader. If I have a screenshot or an image with text on it, I can use this to basically grab a piece of the screen and have it read to me. This is really cool. It's called the Audio Maker. I am not going to mess with the Audio Maker in this page that we're in right now. I'm going to show it to you when we switch over to a website, because the Audio Maker will take a selection of text and turn it into an MP4 and download it onto your computer so then you can share it with your students. But I will demonstrate that when we jump over into a website. Web search. So if let's say this is an assignment for the kids and they need to search for something, it's going to search whatever they highlighted. So, oh, sorry, I lost my document. So I didn't have anything highlighted, so it searched the last word, but I could highlight that word and click search, and it's going to search that word for me. This is probably my favorite tool, the screen mask tool. And you'll see more of its utility if I use it in a website, but I can show it here as well. Coming from an adult with dyslexia, this is awesome. I love this. I can narrow down on what I want to focus on, and I believe they had tools back when we were all kids where it was like a paper and it had you guys know what I'm talking about, where you could basically do what this does, where you can drag it along and stay focused on your line of text. And in a minute here, I'm going to go into the settings and I'm going to show you some of the different ways that you can customize the screen masking. And so I don't know if you saw that, but to turn it off, I had to click back over here and then it goes away. So this is my talk and type feature. So I will go ahead and test that out with you. I'm going to turn it on. It's going to ask me if it can use my microphone. And now it is going to start picking up everything that I am saying into my microphone. Just so you all know, this actually works very well with the Chromebooks, even if the students do not have a headset, period. So it's not going to be perfect. There are certain things that might not pick up. I can't remember if I say new line. No, okay. If I say enter. So there's certain commands that you can kind of figure out where it'll end, it'll go to the next paragraph, but it can be a little tricky to figure those things out. So I'm going to go ahead and stop because it's got everything I said, and you can see it did it fairly accurately. Most of the things that I said, it picked up very well. This is why I found it so useful in college to help me write my papers, because I could just say exactly what I was thinking and I didn't have to take the time to type it out. So your next feature is the translator, and this is just your basic translator. It is powered by Google. So it is, I'm sure, as you all know, Google is not the best translator in the world, but it does a fairly decent job on certain words for the most part. So if I need to translate the word happy, I can highlight it, I can click on my translator, And it actually picked up the word before it as well. So, and then it tells me my translation. So I can listen to it in English and I can listen to it in Spanish. So again, not 100% perfect, but it is a translator that's built in that can be useful for your students. Oops. So then I come to the highlighter tools. The highlighter tools, it just seems like basic highlighting, whatever. Students can pick words and highlight them, and it seems like a pretty basic run-of-the-mill tool. But what is actually really great about this is you could give the students an assignment. You could give them a Google Doc, and you could say, okay, you have a story in front of you. I want you to go through and I want you to highlight, or you could just do like sentences even, make it a little more basic and simple, and say, I want you to highlight the noun in the yellow, and I want you to highlight the verb in green. And so you could have your students go through and highlight the nouns and highlight the verbs. And then you could have them click this collect highlights tool. And so maybe I only wanted the green and the yellow. And it's going to take a second, but then it moves those highlights into a new document for me. It includes my name, because I was the one who created the document, and it linked me back to my original document as well. So this is really cool because you can have the students, so you can have like a full sheet maybe with like 10 sentences and say, okay guys, go through, highlight the nouns, highlight the verbs, and then it's going to collect those nouns and verbs in those other colors, and then your students are like, oh, all my nouns are together and all my verbs are together. So that can be a useful tool, I think. You can also come back over here and I can say, okay, I highlighted, but I want those gone now, and I can just clear my highlights, maybe. There we go. I have to highlight it and then click clear my highlights. So the next tool is the vocabulary tool. This is probably my favorite read and write tool. So I'm going to take the word microphone. I'm going to take the word, I'm going to try to just get student. I don't know if that's actually going to work. We'll see. And what's another good word to try? Maybe, I almost want to pick something kind of weird just to see what it does, but we'll go with next. So I picked 3 words, and I am going to choose this vocabulary tool. So it is going to create another document for me. So it created my highlight document earlier. Now it's creating my vocabulary document. So what I love about this is it gives me the word, it gives me a definition, and it gives me a symbol and a place for notes. So I can scroll down, I can see the other words I highlighted. Sometimes it does weird stuff. Sometimes it pulls in weird words that you didn't intend for it to. And sometimes it doesn't come up with any kind of picture. So one of the things that I like to tell teachers they can do is, all right, let's say you've got this assignment for your students. You ask them to go through and highlight their vocabulary words and create a vocabulary list. But there was no picture for microphone. So what the students can do is they can click in that box, and maybe they want to click underneath that, and they can go to Google's Explore tool. It's this little star tool down here at the bottom. And when they click on that, they can type in all sorts of different things. And it's going to do a safe search. So if I type in microphone, it is doing a safe search and it is giving me the results that it thinks I might want. For those of you who teach maybe high school or more advanced subjects, this right here is to create a citation for one of these websites. But if I go to images, I've got all these pictures of microphones, and maybe this is the one I want. So I can really easily insert that picture of a microphone in my document. So as a student, after I've been taught how to use this tool, I can make this vocabulary list and I can insert my own symbols, my own images. I can make notes on my vocabulary words. So I think that this is actually a really powerful tool. That's probably, the vocabulary tool is probably my favorite out of all the read and write tools. Even more than the screen masking. So the next tool I want to share with you all, and I'm going to come back over here, is the voice note tool. So this is just to create a quick voice note in the document. It's not very long. You see it's only a minute. That's the maximum you can do. But if you're working with a student and they want to leave you just a quick note, they can record this. It's going to pick them up, or you can leave a note for them and then you just insert. Okay, and it took a minute there, but I got it in there. I'm just going to double check real quick the chat because I want to make sure, okay, I haven't missed anything. So back over here. So there we go. I've got my little voice note in there. So the other thing I wanted to show you was the practice reading aloud. And let's say I had sent my students a excerpt from some sort of text. Maybe it's a paragraph, maybe it's just a sentence, but the students can say, okay, it doesn't really matter what I highlight. So I'll just highlight this line and I'm going to say practice reading aloud. So it took this line and it copied it in here for me. And I am going to be able to, as a student, practice my fluency, practice my read aloud skills. So I can record myself. I can read this sentence. I can read it over and over again if I want to. I can even stop it and I can listen to it. And if I don't like it, I can record again. And you see it says re-record as much as you want. And then once the student is ready, once the student feels comfortable and successful in their effort, they can send it to their teacher. So I don't know what this is going to do because I'm actually not sure that I'm a student in anybody's Google Classroom. But if I was, when I click that, so it might ask me to log in, and especially it's been a while since I've used some of these tools. Yes, go ahead. So be sure to just accept those permissions. It's just asking you if it can see your Google Classrooms. So if I had, so I'm not a member of anybody's Google Classroom. I'm only listed as teachers. I'm not listed as a student. But if I had been listed as a student, I would have a list that I could pick from right here. So, you know, Miss Silvery, if I was in your classroom, I could pick your name and it would allow me to send it to you. Or if, you know, for whatever reason, they could type in your email, but they should have you listed as long as you have them in a Google Classroom. And then it would send that right over to the teacher's email. So the teacher could review that student's fluency practice. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one out. But so those are the tools. I did say that I was going to talk about the audio maker by switching over to a website. So I had a website that I kind of pre-picked. And not that necessarily you would have your students reading this, but maybe if you taught high school, you might. And so I could take any selection of this text. Oh, I don't want all that stuff on the side over there. I just want this stuff. Okay, I'm not going to grab the title because it keeps wanting to grab that left bar. So I can select all of this, and then I can say Audio Maker. And it's going to create this audio file for me. So you can see it's downloading it. It's going to use whatever the default like audio player you have on your computer is, and it's going to open it in that whatever that default player you have set up is. So you can see it took this text here and it made it into an MP3. So I can take that and I can then send that to my students. I can add it as a material in an assignment in Google. So that is the Audio Maker tool. And then the other thing I wanted to show you that only shows up when you're in a website. Well, there's actually two things that only show up when you're in a website, but the first one is this. It is Simplify Page. So this is really good for your kiddos who get distracted real easily, but it doesn't work great on every website. So, you know, let them know that. Say, hey, it's not going to work perfect on every website. So if you're missing stuff, if it doesn't make sense, just go back and look at the regular website. So when I click Simplify Page, it opens a new tab with this simplified article in it. So what it does is it creates it as black and white, but I can change that. I can make it however it's easier for me to read. I can make it more simplified or less simplified. It just kind of, I've got those tools. I can change my font so I can make it bigger. I can change my spacing so it's easier. I can grab that tool that I have, that screen masking tool. And so this is the simplified version, but I didn't lose the regular version. It's still there. It's in the original tab that I had open. So all it does is it opens a new tab with a simplified version for those students who want to minimize the distractions on screen. So you can see over here, I've got colors, I've got pictures, and over here, I do not. So that's the basics of the tools. What I would like to go ahead and show you guys now, I'm just going to close out some of these windows that opened up. I'll leave this one open. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to customize the tool. And so I'm coming over here to my three dots. And I've got options, help, support, send feedback. So that's one thing I really want to encourage you guys to do. If you are noticing that a tool is not working the way that you would like it to work, if you are thinking, man, it would be really great if this tool had this other thing, I encourage you to send feedback. A lot of the programs that we use, especially Google programs or programs that integrate with Google, they take their customer feedback very seriously. So feel free to send them some feedback if you are struggling with something or if you think there's something that would be a great integration. So I'm going to come over here to my options. And I have a lot of options here. I encourage you to play around with the options, get to know them. I can change the voice that my text-to-speech things are read to me in. There are a ton of options, and it's going to use an accent based on what I pick. So if I pick, let's see. Okay, let's say if I pick UK Daniel, I can also slow down Daniel's speed because maybe he reads too fast for me. These are options too. I have it to continuous reading, but you could have it to each sentence or to pause on each word. If I'm looking for translations frequently, I can set it to whatever language I'm looking for my translations in. Not all of our students are Spanish when they need translations, so they have options in here to pick different translations. I have this prediction. So I don't know if you guys remember when I turned on that little magic 8-ball for my prediction, and it gave me this huge list of predictions. Maybe that's too much for me. Maybe I'm a first grader and seeing all those options just overwhelms me. Maybe I'm a 12th grader and those options overwhelm me. So I can set that down to 3. I've got the follow the cursor, predict ahead. So, I could choose where I want it to be predicting. I can make the prediction text that comes up a little bit bigger if I want. And then I also have check it. And I don't really see any options here. I looked at this earlier today and I wasn't sure. Maybe it's because I don't have anything. I actually think I do have something highlighted though. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with the check it options because nothing comes up. Screen masking. So the tool here, it's really important, I think, for the students to know how to customize their screen masking tool. Personally, I prefer to have the background color be black. I prefer to have my reading light color to be yellow. I like there to be a certain amount of opacity in both of those. And generally, the reading height is a little bit too big for me. So the reading light height, it's referring to how wide that strip, or I guess not how wide, how tall that strip of the yellow color or the clear color is. So I've changed that. My language, so this is another thing. If your student is a monolingual, they can change the language to Spanish. They can change the features to Spanish, and then they can come up here to I think it's this one, and they can change their translation from Spanish to English. So everything they're looking at is basically in Spanish, but then they're able to use the translation tool to translate things into English. So that was the language. Features. Again, maybe I'm a first grader and there is way too much going on. I can turn off the hover speech. I can turn off the prediction. I can turn off the check it because honestly, the check it is there, but Google does a pretty good job of underlining the things that are spelled incorrectly or grammatically incorrect anyways. I could turn off the screenshot reader because maybe it's just not something my students are really going to be using. I might not want my students to be using the audio maker. So just so you know, they actually have to turn these things off. You can't, you don't have control over which tools they see. But that's a conversation you can have with parents or you can have with students. Like, hey, turn off those features that you're not using. Otherwise, they're just going to distract you. So I can go through and I can pick which things I want to see. And then I click OK. And my bar is simplified. I'm going to go back into those options though and finish going through with you guys. So accounts, make sure that you're signed in with your school account again so that you have those full features that we as a district have purchased. And in the about, you guys don't really need this. It's just kind of what it is and where it came from. So I do want to show you some of the tools that I edited in my options. So I can come over to that screen mask, and now you can see it's much more narrow. I've still got the black background with the opacity and the reading light with the opacity. And so I could make it a lot more stark. You know, I can go and I can say, okay, I want that to be way darker. And I want this to be a little more see-through, just slightly yellow. And maybe just a little more narrow. And then I've got my adjustments to that tool. I can also move this around if it's in my way for whatever reason. And then click on it to make it go away. And so I'll go ahead and show you. So let's see, I should be able to. So that is the UK Daniel voice. So just so you all know, the kids might kind of want to play around with that stuff. Just kind of try to have them pick a voice that they can understand, that's clear to them. But if, you know, if it's helpful for them to listen to somebody with a Spanish accent, you know, allow them to go ahead and pick one of those voices that's going to maybe be a little bit easier for them. So really, those are the tools, and that's how they're used. If anybody has any questions, we can go over those. Real quick, I will point out the Texthelp website. So Texthelp is the creator of Read&Write and Equatio. Those are the two products we have from them. And Texthelp does have a couple of other like read and write tools. So there's a PDF reader. This is Equatio. This is their math one. It's more like a calculator sort of thing. It's not so much an accessibility tool. And they do have like a screenshot reader that you can install separate extensions for. I have had Read&Write. I mean, we all have had Read&Write for several years now, and most of the time I just use the normal puzzle piece tool. The PDF is okay. And if I open a PDF from my Google Drive, let's see. Not really sure what this lesson is, but we'll go ahead and open it up and just see. So then it gives me my PDF tools. So, you know, there's a couple of different tools in here, but for the most part, it's basically the same. It does give me the drawing tool, and the push pin is so that I can make notes in certain places or annotations, basically. I still have the screen mask, but you see it's different here because I haven't set it up in the PDF tool, but I still have most of my basic tools that I had before. Honestly, 90% of the time, I just use the purple puzzle piece. I know that we're mostly using Kami for PDFs anyways, and Kami does have some of its own built-in things like the text-to-speech, the speech-to-text, so those are there. But back to the website, they have a lot of really great training on here as well. So if I go over here and I go to Read&Write, am I there? Is it not working? There we go. So I can come down and I can see Read&Write for Education. It talks about it. There is training. Where is the training at? Okay, sorry. If you just go all the way to the bottom, need help, training and resources. And so there is a full training portal. They've got videos. There's a lot of really great stuff in here. I've gone through the Texthelp Training 1 and Texthelp Training 2, and there's just tons of great resources to get you guys more familiar. Here's just a lot of their videos. Read and Write for Google Chrome. This is what you guys would want. But there really is a lot of great stuff here. So yeah, then there's little videos on basically most of the tools anyways. So I'm going to come back over here and see if anybody has any questions. I do want you guys to know that it will work in docs. It should work in sheets, slides, any of those things. So I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting my screen. And feel free to unmute yourselves and ask any questions. I can reshare my screen and go over some of the tools in more detail if you have any questions about those. If nobody has any questions, feel free to email me them, or you can email them to Stephen Morgan. He's going to be kind of taking over for the schools I've been working with. And do check out, so in your Google Calendar, I did attach that document, and I've got those resource sheets inside that document for you. So I'm going to just hang out. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.